Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I am so incredibly thrilled to have you with us today as we unpack one of the most intricately woven societies in all of Europe. When you hear about Bosnia and Herzegovina, your brain might immediately jump to a really complex geopolitical puzzle. But today, we're going to look at it through a completely different lens. We're going to see it as a fascinating, vibrant cultural mosaic. This is a place that has been shaped by the rise and fall of massive empires, shattered by modern conflict, and is now working tirelessly to piece itself back together. It's just this incredible story of history, survival, and identity, and today, we are going to make it all crystal clear. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this with a clear roadmap of how we'll untangle this state. First up, crossroads of empires. Second, Yugoslavia and the fracture. Third, the Dayton Agreement. Fourth, governing a divided state. Fifth, economic and modern challenges. And finally, an enduring cultural mosaic.
But before we even touch the historical timeline, I want you to keep this central question in mind. How exactly do you govern a single country that's made up of three distinct constituent nations? We are talking about Bosniaks, Croats, and Serbs, all sharing one state. It's a profound challenge of political engineering, right? Well, to truly grasp why this is so notoriously difficult today and why this totally unique situation exists in the first place, we have to look back at how the historical pieces of this demographic puzzle were actually put together.
So, Section 1, Crossroads of Empires, a historical foundation. Let's fast forward through a few centuries of history. Notice how each era layered entirely distinct influences right onto the region. Back in 1180, under Ban Kulin, the medieval state was affirmed, which established a highly developed society. By 1377, it became a formidable kingdom under Tvrko I. But the map of Europe was always changing. In 1463, the Ottoman conquest swept in, capturing the capital of Sarajevo and introducing centuries of Islamic and Eastern influence. Fast forward again to 1878, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire takes over administration, bringing a huge wave of Western European bureaucracy, architecture, and industrialization. And finally, following the collapse of those empires after World War I, the region joined the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes in 1918. Every single one of these massive shifts left a permanent mark on the land and its people.
So what did all of that overlapping history actually create? Well, it created what we call the Bosnian mosaic. Centuries of shifting imperial rule forged a uniquely multi-ethnic and multi-religious society. Islamic, Orthodox, Catholic, and Western European influences didn't just replace one another, they literally layered on top of each other. This mixing created a rich, but definitely complex demographic reality. In urban centers like Sarajevo, different faiths and traditions commingled daily. You literally see mosques, Catholic churches, and Orthodox cathedrals sharing the exact same skyline, a beautiful testament to centuries of shared, albeit sometimes tense existence.
Moving on to Section 2, Yugoslavia and the fracture, the devastating fall.
Okay, let's look at the objective steps that led to the breakup. In 1945, right after World War II, Bosnia and Herzegovina was re-established as a republic within the new Socialist Democratic Federal Yugoslavia. For decades, a sense of unified Yugoslav identity was heavily promoted, which kind of put a lid on the underlying ethnic tensions. However, 1980 marked a massive turning point, the death of long-term leader Josip Broz Tito. Without his unifying grip, suppressed ethnic nationalisms really began to rise to the surface, and a major power struggle ensued among the republic's leaders. And that culminated in our final step. Following the secession of Slovenia and Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina declared independence in 1992. Because the society was so heterogeneous, this declaration immediately triggered severe armed conflict along ethnic lines.
The reality of the 1992 to 1995 Bosnian War was incredibly bleak. Following the declaration of independence, Bosnian Serbs, with assistance from the Yugoslav People's Army, attacked Bosniak and Croatian civilians. The conflict saw horrific atrocities, including mass killings and the establishment of concentration camps. The tragedy reached its absolute darkest point during the Srebrenica massacre in July 1995, where Bosnian Serb forces killed more than 8,000 Bosniak men and boys. It was a completely devastating human toll that fundamentally altered the fabric of the country. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer material devastation that accompanied the human tragedy. A staggering 80%, yes, 80% of GDP investments in production capabilities were completely destroyed. That equates to roughly $1.6 billion just wiped out. The war didn't just break the social trust, it literally dismantled the physical and economic infrastructure of the state, leaving a monumental task for post-war reconstruction.
Section 3.
The Dayton Agreement, framework for peace.
Signed in late 1995, the Dayton Agreement actually successfully achieved its primary goal. It ended the war. But look at how it accomplished this. The agreement radically transformed the country by partitioning the territory into a complex confederal state made up of two highly autonomous ethnicized entities. While it did preserve the peace, it left Bosnia and Herzegovina with an incomplete constitutional scheme, placing the country under strict international trusteeship. It effectively froze the conflict directly into the very institutions of the government.
Which brings us to Section 4, Governing a Divided State. Intricate post-war gov.
This geographic and political split perfectly mirrors the reality of the country today. It's almost like two different worlds. On one side, you have the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is mostly populated by Bosniaks and Croats. It is highly decentralized, broken down into 10 distinct cantons, each with its own assembly and government. On the other side, you have the Republika Srpska, populated mostly by Serbs, which operates with a much more centralized authority. Because these ethnic groups effectively control their own parallel institutions, even down to having separate education systems, everyday governance across the whole country becomes incredibly inefficient and bureaucratic.
To truly understand the complexity of all this, we have to look at the state-level power-sharing structure. It's wild. To prevent any one ethnic group from dominating the others, the system relies on super strict quotas. The executive branch isn't led by one president, but by a tripartite presidency consisting of exactly one Bosniak, one Croat, and one Serb. The legislature is bicameral. The upper house of people has 15 members, perfectly split, with 5 from the cantons and 5 from Republika Srpska. The lower house of representatives has 42 members elected proportionally, but again with conditions to prevent ethnic dominance. It's a dizzying balancing act that prioritizes ethnic representation over political agility.
Section 5, Economic and Modern Challenges. Transitional Hurdles.
4 key hurdles really cleanly distill the modern reality here. First, political parties generally govern based on ethnic affiliation rather than actual political ideology, which makes cross-aisle cooperation incredibly rare. Second, we see segregated education systems that actually produce future citizens right along the divided lines envisioned during the war. Third, the country suffers from an intense youth brain drain and rural migration, a trend that actually started back in the 1950s but was severely worsened by the war and current economic stagnation. Finally, their integration into the European Union has largely stalled, despite being a potential candidate since 2002, heavily due to these structural and political inefficiencies.
Now, what's really interesting here is how geographic realities further complicate things. Bosnia and Herzegovina shares over 1,000 kilometers of border with its neighbors. A massive 932 kilometers are shared with Croatia, 336 with Serbia, and 35 with Montenegro. Because the constituent nations within Bosnia have deep historical and cultural ties to these neighboring states, this deeply intertwined geography makes total political and economic independence a really tricky balancing act.
Finally, Section 6, an enduring cultural mosaic. The greatest asset.
Despite everything, take a look at the incredible shared heritage that has survived centuries of turmoil. It is absolutely stunning. You have a unique tradition of folk music that beautifully blends ancient Bosnian melodies with Oriental tunes. You have a breathtaking diversity of sacral architecture. Just look at Sarajevo's skyline. Where else can you see Romanesque, Gothic, Islamic, and post-war brutalist architecture standing shoulder to shoulder? And then there are historic monuments like the incredible 1420-class half-moon stone archbridge in Mostar. These aren't just old stones or old songs. They are the living, breathing proof of a society that has always found a way to adapt, mix, and persist.
I actually want to read this quote directly from our source material because it honestly just hits the nail on the head. The cultural landscapes of the cities are not merely urban contexts for the existence of religious entities and nations. Rather, they reflect culture, society, and, not infrequently, history in their entirety. What this tells us is that the physical cities themselves, the shared streets, the mixed skylines, the bridges, are the ultimate, undeniable proof of an intertwined history that just cannot be separated by political lines drawn on a map.
Which brings us to our final thought. Will the enduring beauty of its shared cultural heritage ultimately provide the blueprint for Bosnia and Herzegovina to transcend its political fractures? The political structures put in place by Dayton stopped the war, absolutely. But it's the shared culture, the music, the architecture, and the everyday people that will have to truly forge the peace. It's an incredible story of resilience at the crossroads of Europe, and a question that the whole world should be watching closely. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.